Peace. Right. Welcome back to the channel. Josh Tree with another video. All right. So in today's video, I want to talk about this lingering immobilization stuck energy that I still see that a lot of us are still having a hard time transitioning through. So a lot of us right now, including myself, is trying to get more deeper into purpose fulfilled work, which I am already doing, but I want to do it at a larger capacity, right? So what this can look like for people who are watching this video, if you feel like you are stuck right now, you feel like you want to get into your business more, you feel like you're trying to discover your purpose, you feel like you don't know what your passions are, what your dream is, and things of that, this can potentially help you. All right. So let's get into this video. All right. So I'm going to break it down in a lot of ways of how I see this and how this could potentially help. So this is what we're going to start with. Okay. So what we're going to start with, let's just say, okay, we're going to start with, say your dream is to become a spiritual teacher. That's the goal. That's the dream. That's the vision, to become a spiritual teacher. All right. You've always known this. You always knew that you were great at teaching. And so this is the path, right? Okay. Now, I want to talk about two concepts that came to me during the meditation. Spirit revealed to me something about the ears, right? You got one ear here, you got one ear here. Okay. Spirit revealed to me that one ear is listening to your thoughts in your mind, and then one ear is listening to your heart and your feelings. So we have one for one. Hold that thought. I feel like snot is coming down my nose. Okay, I'm coming. Give me a second here. Feel like I'm leaking. Okay, 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 okay. All right, okay. Allergy season is just don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. Anyway, ear for ear, right? Ear for the thoughts, ear for the heart or the emotions. Okay, so that's something to be mindful to. So let's paint an analogy. Imagine that your mind is a military base, and imagine that your heart is a military base. This is the primary branch where everything takes place, in the heart and in the mind. Out of that mind is, you have soldiers, right? Because we're talking about military base. The soldiers are the thoughts and the narratives. Okay. The military base, which is the heart, the soldiers are your emotions and your feelings. Now, these soldiers leave the base and they go communicate with the world. They interact with the world. They're fighting for your goal. They're fighting for the dream. They're fighting for the vision. All right. So these are two different military bases. They operate completely different from each other. Okay. And they have soldiers that support whatever it is that you're trying to envision or trying to go afterwards. Now, another key point, both of these military bases produces results, produces action. Okay. So if you feel like you're in a part in your journey where you're still trying to figure out what it is that you want to do for yourself, whatever your passion is, I want you to pay attention to what part, or better yet, what military branch are you receiving orders from? What military branch, rather is the heart or the mind, that you are listening to consistently? Because we're constantly either listening to our mind, which is producing thoughts and narratives. So ultimately, we're listening to our thoughts and our narratives. Okay. Or we're listening to our heart, which is a military branch, and we're constantly listening to our feelings and our emotions. This is so important because when it comes down to trying to pursue something that you're so passionate about, or that's your vision or your dream, you're listening to two parts of you, or two military branches. I'm sorry, bases. It's either the heart that you're listening to, or you're listening to the mind. All right. So the way that so let's get deeper, right? The military branch, I'm sorry, I keep saying branch, the military base, which is the mind, right? Let's just start with the neck up. If you only listen with one ear to the military base of the mind, what you're listening to is all of the drama, stories, negative narratives, and thoughts that is associated with the goal, which is in this particular case scenario to become a spiritual teacher. So whatever your narratives are, your visions, right? Your thoughts that are telling you and you're listening to it is going to produce a certain action that's going to drive you to that result. So if you're constantly listening to your mind and it's constantly telling you, oh, we're not good enough to become a teacher, we have imposter syndrome, we don't know enough, we don't know how to articulate ourselves, we have trouble with speaking. If you're listening to your thoughts, okay, if you're taking orders from this military branch or this military base, it's going to produce an action. And that action is not going to be going towards your goal, it's going to be going in the opposite. Why? Because these thoughts are not supporting the goal. It's supporting opposite of the goal, which is to keep you safe and to keep you in the same position, immobilized, stuck. Okay, so I want to draw a little. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this military branch or military base. Okay, Spirit must want me to say military branch, so we'll just stick to military branch. Okay. In this military branch, I want you to understand something about your thoughts. I want you to understand something about your mental narratives. A lot of our mental narratives, and when I say mental narratives, I mean those stories that you hear. I mean those voices that come in intrusively and say, I'm not enough, or say, you know what, you stupid, or say you're not intelligent enough to do these things. Whatever these negative, quote unquote, mental stories that we have circulating inside of our minds is not our thoughts. It is not our thoughts. It's not our mental narratives. These are mental narratives that we have received from our parents, caregivers, or social environments when we were children, and we internalize these thoughts and mental narratives as our own. So, for instance, I had a parent who used to say that what I do, or how I move, or how I act is very stupid. So this particular person used to always say, stop being stupid. That is stupid, Joshua. Stop being stupid. Okay, let's pause and let's go back to the science. We understand that in order for you to impact the subconscious mind, it has to be done by repetition, it has to be done by symbology, and let's say trauma. I constantly kept receiving the message, stop being stupid, okay, repetitiously. Boom, that's one checkpoint. This was traumatizing to me because the person who was sharing it to me, their voice was very elevated, which was very overwhelming because they were screaming at the top of their lungs to make a point. That is what we call subjective trauma. Subjectively, I view that as trauma. Boom, automatically hit the database or the subconscious, and now I am traumatized. And now I believe, because it was constantly repetitiously given to me, that I am stupid. So now I have thoughts that came from outside source that I internalized inside of me because I didn't know who I was as a child. So I automatically assumed that I must be stupid. All right. So you may have your own scenarios of what that looks like to you. The point is that don't give in or listen so much to what your narratives are telling you because it's coming from your childhood trauma or your childhood neglect or your parents who were so abusive verbally and emotionally that they have implanted these mental narratives that are like germinated seeds in your subconscious that grew a tree that is actually poisonous to your well-being. Okay, so let's recap. We're talking about a military branch, we're talking about the mind right now. You got one ear listening to the mind, you got another ear listening to the heart. If this one ear is constantly active, that means that you live above the neck up. That means that you're constantly listening to this military branch. That means that if you're constantly listening to this military branch, you're listening to a false narrative that is not supportive and not conducive to your goals, dreams, aspirations. A lot of us as humans live in the mind. Okay. We pay rent in the mind. All right. We ain't getting evicted no time soon because we have trusted that the mind knows more than the heart or the mind knows more than the body. We have placed so much value on our thoughts that we think the thoughts knows everything. But here's the news flash. Your thoughts only is coming from a place of past experiences and a void that has not been fulfilled. And what I mean by a void that's not have been fulfilled, that prime example, say you texting somebody, right? And you text them, in the morning time, 10 a.m. Hey, how you doing? I was wondering if we can have lunch today. They don't respond back till like 8 o'clock at night, right? Y'all already planned that y'all was gonna do this, right? Or may have not planned it. Maybe you just planned it right down the spot, like I just said. Can we have lunch today at 10 a.m. or whatever I said? Okay, stick to the message. Okay, let me go back. Hold, let me go back. Let me go back. Let me go back. Wait. Okay, so if you send by, okay, so let me go back. Let's say you're prepping up to have a lunch with someone at 10 a.m. Okay, the whole week you knew that you was gonna have lunch with this person. That Sunday you had y'all planned Monday. That Sunday 10 o'clock rolls around, but you check in around 9 a.m. to see if they're still available. They don't respond back. They don't respond back to 8 o'clock that night. This is where the void comes in. Being that they haven't responded back when you ask the question, your mind doesn't know why they haven't responded back. So it's going to make something up because it cannot live without knowing the answer to why this person hasn't responded back. It is literally the curious cat. Okay. What's the saying that curiosity killed the cat or whatever the saying is? That level of curiosity, the mind's going to say, you know what? It's going to go to a past experience to fill the void. It's going to say, you know what? Maybe they just blew me off. Or you know what? Maybe they don't like me. Or you know what? Maybe they got, or maybe it's an emergency and the family thing happened. Or maybe it was something I said last Monday and they didn't like what I said, so they probably ghosted me. You're going to go to an experience that 9 times out of 10 is negative. It's going to be a negative interpretation. And you're going to go to experience that 9 times out of 10 you had already experienced. And then the other percentage is you're going to have an answer that you made up. It's just going to be subjective. It's no truth. You just made this shit up because that's just how you feeling and you think that's what it is. And it'll never be that. Because once the person responds back, they'll say, oh, hey, look, sorry, I forgot that we had lunch today. Unfortunately, I had to go out of town because my grandmother got real sick, and she was the only person. I was the only person she called, and so it was emergency, and I totally forgot about our plans. And I'm right here with my grandmother right now, and she's close to her deathbed. Please forgive me. Right? You find out the truth. So that's a scenario how your mind, okay, the military branch, plays out these narratives that are completely falsehood. So the question is, why do you keep listening, right, to your thoughts, these mental narratives that is not yours to begin with in the first place? You're putting too much trust into your thoughts, okay? So let's move from the neck down, because now we was at the military branch, the neck up. Let's move from the military branch, the neck down. We're going to talk about the heart. Okay. So now the heart is the military branch that deals with the emotions, right? So the soldiers that come out of this military branch are emotions and feelings. So now if you are feeling, meaning you are listening, right? You're listening to how you feel. So if the goal is we want to become a spiritual teacher, you're listening to how that feels in your body. Now, this is where things get interesting, because you can actually feel that this feels good to you. What we do is we do a double confirmation check. We take the feeling that already has gave us an answer and we bring it up to the mind and say, hey, so what you think about this? And you know what the mind gonna do? Well, I think that maybe we're not ready. And I think that I don't know if you're like, competent enough to talk about certain topics. Or I think we need to get more certifications. Or I think that people are going to be judging us. Or I think that we don't really know what we don't. It's going to just make up a bunch of shit when you have already received your answer. So we're talking about trust at this point. We don't trust or value our heart or value our emotions enough, because society has also taught us not to live in our emotions and not to honor our emotions because they're negative or they're bad, and we should feel shameful for feeling our emotions. But your feelings have already gave you the answer. If you feel good about becoming, say, a spiritual teacher or whatever your dream or vision is, if you can feel it, if you feel elevated, if you feel like it's expansive, why is that not enough for you to take action? And so the thing that comes to me when I ask the question is, oh, well, it doesn't feel certain enough. It doesn't feel like this is enough for me to trust it. So I have to send the signal to the mental military branch, and I got to get more certainty. I'm looking for certainty, Josh. This is why I can't accept the truth right now. I need more certainty. So let me bring it up there and let me see what they talking about. And then what winds up happening? You wind up not doing anything, because this is your doubter. This is the part of you that don't know nothing. It's only going off of past experiences, and it's polarized as a negative biased. It is negatively biased. It's going to always shift to bias. It's always going to give you a negative response first before it give you a positive response. It lives in negativity because of so much of social conditioning. But the heart knows. If you bring the idea of I want to be a spiritual teacher to the heart and to the body, and I ask you, okay, how does that feel? First feeling that you get, how does it feel? You might say, oh, it feels anxious. Then the question would be, why does it feel anxious? You know you love to teach. You know you're confident at teaching. You know you're great at teaching, but what about it that feels anxious? Is it because it is part of the fact that we live in this shell, this container called a human body, and it's constantly trying to protect us from experiences that it's not aware of that can potentially create danger in our life? Because if that's the case, then that's normal. The body is always trying to keep you in a space of survival, right? And protection. So the idea of being a spiritual teacher means you have to be exposed a little bit more. So the body's gonna say, no, 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 my friend, no, no, my friend. It's like, no, no, my friend, we can't do this. Like, your body's gonna shut down, but you have to have discernment. You have to know that that's the body's job. That doesn't mean it's unsafe. That means that's the body's job to protect you from what it thinks is unsafe. So this is when you do some regulation practices, right? Such as breath work, right? And a host of other different somatic practices. Just simply Google it, right? And you release, you regulate yourself. Then you go back and ask the question again, is it in alignment for me to become a spiritual teacher? And then pay attention to how you feel. And 9 times out of 10, once you remove that resistance that the body has created because it thinks that it's going to be unsafe to be a spiritual teacher, then you'll realize the truth that was always been present. You know what you want to do. You can feel it in your body, but you're also fearful of the feeling because you know it requires you to become a different person. It requires you to evolve, right? So what winds up happening? Right? Because these, like I said, these are two military branches. The heart and the mind are completely separate from each other, but they're also in connection with each other. So what happens by we constantly asking, once we receive the message, is in alignment. Let's go back to the example. Is it in alignment for me to be a spiritual teacher? Boom, we let it sit, we feel into it, we already got the message. The message feels good, right? It feels exciting. It's like, oh my God, like I feel so much compassion for this, right? Then what we do is, but is that enough? That can't be enough. Let me bring it up to the mind. So by we constantly creating this, you know what you're doing? You're creating a habit. And what happens when you create a habit? You start to create a behavior. And then when you create a behavior, guess what happens? It starts to become a compulsive behavior because you do this so much. You do this so much to where you're going to keep staying stagnant. You're going to keep staying in the same place. You're going to keep staying immobilized. Okay. So this is the whole point of this whole video, is to how to get out of a state of immobilization and being stuck. You have to realize what you are doing first. You keep not trusting what you feel and what you know, and you're giving it to your mind and your thoughts, and you thinking your mind and thoughts are superior to what your emotions are also trying to share to you. Like I said, you got one ear for each part of you. You got the ear, all you got is one ear. Is listening to this. You got another ear is listening to this. Okay. But it seems like what we did is we cut off the neck down and used both ears just for this. So this getting all the praise, all the love, but the heart ain't receiving no love because you're not listening. Listen to your heart. It has its own communication. So what we want to do is, if you find yourself in this space, you want to balance it out. Right? Because you can't have one without the other. I'm not even saying, well, what you're saying, Josh, you go ahead and just let go of the military branch that's in the head, like let go of the mind. Nope, not saying that. You need both. You need both. What I'm saying is that you need to start to lean more into what part of the brain or part of the body or the heart you don't utilize. So in other words, lean more to what you don't normally um, connect to first. So if you connect to the brain first or the mind first in terms of how you make your decisions, start practicing connecting with your heart and your feelings. Like you know, stop going to the mind as a go-to first. Go to your heart as the go-to and listen. And this takes practice. This ain't no like up the street. And it's the only reason why it takes practice because we practiced for so long the practice of relying on our mental state and our mental thoughts over our heart and our emotions. And what's interesting, I think another reason why we do that is because we can actually hear, right? We can actually hear voices in our heads. Ooh, spooky shit. And so the fact that we can hear, okay, these voices, right? The body, we can't hear these voices. So we think like, oh, this got to be where it's at because I can hear it clear as day. But like I just told you, what you're hearing is all of the verbal abuse that your parents have given you when you were a child, and you're thinking that is valid, or you're thinking that is you because you heard these thoughts all your life. And so you identify with these thoughts and you identify with these narratives as if it's the real you, when there is no real you. You're just pure awareness. So the fact that you can actually hear your thoughts versus not being able to distinguish your thoughts lets you know that you're not your thoughts, because if you was your thoughts, you wouldn't be able to distinguish your thoughts. You would be inseparable. But you're actually separate. You can actually observe. Oh, I hear a thought coming in. It telling me, Josh, you are not valued enough. Damn, that stings. And then what happens over a period of time is we keep hearing that voice resurface and rebuild and reinforce itself, and we say that got to be me, because it doesn't go nowhere. But the key to that is the only reason why it keeps building up and becoming more stronger is because you keep giving energy to it. Yeah, it's called attention. Pay attention to what you are giving your energy to, because it's going to eventually overcome you. You're empowering your narratives and your thoughts by giving it attention and believing that these thoughts and narratives are you. So the key is to balance out the military branches. If you use this, start using this and trust it. The way that you trust it is you take the action. Take the action. If your goal, like I said, to be a spiritual teacher, and you feel it in your heart, you would love to do that, apply whatever action comes to you. The first, if it's a reading a book, taking a certification, making an investment, traveling to India, learning from a spiritual guru, learning about, yoga, whatever the teacher it is, because there's different types of teachers, follow that or die trying, right? We just gonna do some straight Curtis Jackson type shit. You know what I'm saying? Follow it or die trying. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, this is your life. So the more that you wait and the more that you listen to these false narratives, the more time that you are wasting, because time is finite. And so if you're living in the physical world and you got the mindset that we have all this time, we actually don't. And for the people out there that love to say, well, time is an illusion. Yes, time is an illusion when you're in a different dimension. But when you're in the third dimension, time is not an illusion, because if you don't show your ass up to work and you don't go your ass to work on time, your ass gonna get fired. So we got to also be practical about this and stop utilizing the concept that time is an illusion to escape our reality and escape our responsibilities and escape our accountability that we need to do to take place in order for us to get to where we're trying to go. Let's like grow up a little bit, because I do find that a lot of people who don't want to accept their reality and don't want to take accountability will always say that time is illusion anyway, so none of this shit isn't real. But at the same time, your nervous system is hella active. So if time is illusion and none of this shit isn't real, why is your body perceiving it as if it is real? Think about that. Just go find your corner and sit in it. So anyway, let's be mature here, okay? Let's be mature here. We gotta go through discomfort to get to where we're trying to go. For some beautiful reason, because I don't know the reason, this is what we have to go through. We're feeling beings. We're just feeling our way through this thing. We're just feeling our way through life. We're feeling our way through everything that we're trying to experience. Either you feel it by numbing yourself, or you feel it by feeling the whole entire experience. It's two opposite polarities. A completely numb person is a person who is on an extreme feeling of not feeling anything. A person who can feel everything is on a polar opposite extreme feeling of feeling everything. It's on the same scale. You could feel nothing or you could feel everything. Choose your polarity. But I highly suggest you feel everything. Because what's the point of having a body and not feeling nothing? Like, what's the point of doing that? Like, that don't make no sense. I might as well die today. Because when you die, you don't have a body to feel. So we ain't dead yet. So why are you walking like you is? Okay. So as these two military branches, okay, we're gonna come to our conclusion. As the two military branches interact with each other, they're now at war with each other. So now the mind and the heart are at war with each other. When in reality, they was actually in harmony with each other at one point. But now they're at war with each other because you're listening to this part and you're not listening to this part, or you're listening to this part and you're not listening to this part. They both work hand in hand together harmoniously. The goal is to try to get them back into a state of harmony. Okay. And until you do that, there will constantly be this war, this conflict. And what that war and conflict looks like internally is inertia, is immobilization, is you being stuck. That's the war that you're in right now. You are stuck. And there's a war going on. But the war is not outside. Right now, there's all the stuff going on overseas and all that. And supposedly we at war right now. And that's not the real war. The real war is inside of you. Don't let none of that fool you. Don't let none of that distract you. The real war is right here, player, between these two military branches. Okay, these two military branches are at war with each other. So I think I have everything I needed to say. Can't think of nothing else. So if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, subscription, subscribe, all that good jazz. I'd love to hear your thoughts, player. And on that note, I'm gonna let y'all go. Peace.